Good day, Chief here. No atheists in Foxholes. We've seen war movies. We've seen people talk about how everybody's always scared on the battlefield. And I read a book one time where several individuals, at least during World War II, that were in Foxholes supposedly prayed to God to get me out of here. You know, I will serve you the rest of my life, and they went on to become ministers. Throughout my career, as you know, I only went to one war, the Gulf War, back in 1990 and 91. Wasn't much of a war per se for me, because I wasn't on the front line. I wasn't sitting in a tank. I wasn't an infantryman. As you know, I'm military intelligence. Even though we say always out front, elements of us can be beyond the front line sometimes, but not my MOS. However, during the Gulf War, I did explain that we were convoying one night, and all of a sudden there's a tank column to the right of us, there's a tank column to the left of us. From the left side, because I was driving, I heard, "Hey, MI! Yeah!" And then we were told to stop because we were rolling into a possible, or a tank battle. I have tried looking up what this tank battle was, but I haven't seen anything, but maybe it's just a minor engagement. And I don't remember if I talked about our day convoy, where I think I did, where we stopped and we had an enemy tank up in front, then all of a sudden we had a trench line filled with soldiers to our left again. I didn't panic. I didn't withdraw. To me, looking back on it, I was stupid. I was too serious about the situation. But that's what you should be. You should be serious about what you're doing. Because I remember later on, even though the war was winding down, it hadn't officially ended yet, but we started driving people to the rear to go talk on telephones. And I got yelled at by my then spouse. "Why didn't you call me?" Other people were getting calls. I said, "Sweetheart, I let the younger soldiers go. And then by the time it rolled around to me, there was no more trips per se that day. I knew you were safe. I knew you were taking care of business. And what was I going to tell you? I'm safe. I'm sound. But yeah." But looking back, like I said, I was stupid. Now, I don't know if I brought up the fact, but prior going to war, being military intelligence battalion, I remember a couple of my fellow male soldiers, not in my company, but in another company, they said, "Yeah, if I'm in a foxhole with a female and I'm going to be overrun, the hell with fighting, I'm going to be getting it on with the female." And then, even then I thought back, gee, what a nice position to put a female soldier in. You've already got her semi-strip, enemy, like you said, enemy's overrunning you. What are they going to do? They're going to shoot you and then continue on business with her. What a brave soldier you are to put that female soldier into more pain and more mental anguish and everything else. If she survives, of course, they may dispatch her after they're done. Who knows? You never can tell. Or they may do it even after she's dead. Kind of morbid, but I was just upset when I heard that from fellow soldiers, because those soldiers were from my wife's company. So I was like, well, good thing my ex didn't get to go, because I'd hate for that situation to happen to her. As I said, I was too serious. The only time I got scared, I don't talk about. That's my minor PTSD. So far, I haven't needed to go to therapy to discuss this. I probably never will. I just saw something that I pray I never see again. And the way I've been living my life, I've never been in that situation to ever see that again. It would take another Gulf War to put me in that situation. Not a regular war, another Gulf War. I saw darkness, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Short subject today. Like I said, no atheists in Foxholes. I've been religious all my life. Did I pray over there? Yes. Did I have a foxhole? I had a slit trench that I was living in for a while. I talked about that. Me and my TC, we made slit trenches too close side by side, but then again, we at least had something, because remember, my wonderful squad leader, she said, now if the rain or if the artillery shells start raining from the sky, run into the 577 for protection. Yeah, metal, even though it's mostly aluminum, metal and aluminum attract those things, so they blow them up. I mean, that's what they're aiming at to begin with. They're just not aiming, oh look, there's a tracked vehicle, let's aim to the right of it. No, they're not going to do that stunt. So, I mean, like I said, I was too serious. And even when I did that recon with my TC, even though I think I talked about it, where I did that hollow step, like in Clear and Present Danger, and there's a bunker underneath me. I didn't get super scared. I mean, I got a little frightened, because when we went down and I looked around the corner and I go, Rodney, it's too dark. Yes, we have our flashlights, but flashlights aren't good enough for us to risk our lives going in there. We don't know what we're going to find. But to this day, I wish I had gone inside. Who knows what I would have found, or what size that bunker was. I'll never know. It's a mystery that doesn't really haunt me, but it's a mystery that I didn't solve. And later on, while the war was still going on, when we went to this remote site, you know, it's not like there were oases for us to go to, no lovely palm trees with a spring and a pool and everything else for us to deploy next to. I don't know where, I assume the company commander was getting these locations from higher up. And we were out in the middle of nowhere a couple times. I mean, you look to the left of you, you look to the right of you, you look to the front of you, you look to behind you, what do you see? Nothing. Desert. So one day I told Staff Sergeant, I'm going to do a recon. I'm not going to go far. I will still be within shouting distance or weapons range. You know, if bam, 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 you hear that, you know, come see what's going on. And found a dead lizard, good-sized lizard. Don't know what it was. It was already half rotten. Found a road, didn't step on it for fear of landmines, and but it looked like it wasn't even hardly traveled recently, at least. And that was it. And then, of course, I got yelled by my company commander for going off by myself, and him threatened if I ever did something like that again, you know, he would write me up, and, you know, I don't want to have to write a letter to your wife to explain why you did something stupid and foolish to get killed. And I'm like, well, people knew I was out there. So, I mean, I wouldn't have done that if I was scared. I was actually bored, because here we are in, like I said, middle of nowhere, doing absolutely nothing except sitting and doing radio checks with our 6 or 7 assets we had, and that was it. Like I said, for me, not being in a combat unit, the war was pretty simple. But yeah, no atheists in Foxholes. What else can I say? I mean, as I reflect, I was stupid. I was too serious to ever get scared. Now, if something probably would have fallen from the sky near me, might be a different story, but that's my story. I'm sticking to it, as somebody used to say. And, yeah, that's basically it. I was too serious. Wanted to go over there, do what we had to do, get it over with, then come back home and not worry about side missions like, oh, let me go to the rear and call home. Unlike any other previous war, so to speak, like that's ever happened. Now you got a cell phone. I got a kitty cat climbing in the curtains behind me and clawing them. So like I said, now you got cell phones and you can call whenever, so that would have solved that issue. But then again, might have caused things to fall out of the sky. Hey, look, there's a whole bunch of cell phones together. Let's shoot something at it. So that's it for this week. I'm still still trying to figure out what to talk about every week, especially for the Chief Tells Tells. But that's me at war. And like I said, how foolish and stupid I was. I was taking it too serious to actually have any fear. So, Chief out. Freedom's not free. You know what to do with the vet. Please, take care of the vets.